Love the music.
All right, well, welcome to Let Freedom Ring. My guest this week is Rich Berklund. Rich, I appreciate you being flexible and being able to do this today. And we're scheduled for yesterday. I had a little bit of food poisoning, and I thought I was on my deathbed yesterday. I said COVID can't get me, but apparently something else can. So feeling a little bit better today, though. I didn't go. I still was feeling crappy this morning, but right now I feel at least sort of myself a little bit. But Rich, let's get to know you just a little bit. So where are you from and where'd you grow up?
So originally I'm from the great state of Montana. I spent 18 wonderful years there. Grew up hunting and fishing, hiking, camping, doing all the great outdoor stuff. And then I decided it was time to get out and do something different. My dad was in the Navy. My grandfathers were in the Navy. My uncle was in the Navy. So I decided, hey, I'll give it a try, give it a couple years, get the GI Bill, come back, go to college. And I never went back. I did 20 years and haven't looked back.
Nice. So then after you finished, were you already living in New Hampshire when you retired from?
No, I actually retired out of into Nevada. I went for a small company, you might know it, called Amazon.com. And I actually, when I was in the Navy in 2003 to 2005, I was stationed in Kittery at the shipyard over in Kittery, and loved the area. And my wife's like, if we ever get a chance to go back, we should go back. So we were in Nevada. I quit. I left my job at Amazon, went to work for a power company out there. They were getting ready to shut down one of the units. And this job that I got here 5 years ago just kind of fell in my lap. So it worked out perfect.
All right. Awesome. Now, Amazon, that must have been growing at that time, because now to be this, I don't know. It's everything now.
When I worked at Amazon, we were excited when the stock prices went past $50.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, woo, stock prices, $50 is climbing. And but I tell you, that was the hardest 2 years of my life. Because as a supervisor, I worked anywhere from 60 to 100 hours a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, especially during the holidays, from Thanksgiving to Christmas Eve, you didn't get a day off. As a manager, you were humping day in and day out, and that was expected of you.
Yeah. And now look at that company. I mean, I don't know if it's probably still the same way. I don't know, but they're doing big things, big things.
Things.
Now, what's one thing? Now we know you're in the Navy, but what's one thing everybody should know about you?
One thing that everybody should know about me. I thought long and hard about this, and I think the one thing that everybody should know about me is that I'm probably one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Like, I act all tough on the exterior and rough, and I'm kind of short with people, but if you really take the time to get to know me, you'll probably find I'm one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. I'd give you the shirt off my back. I wouldn't give you a euro, but I'd give you the shirt off my back.
There you go. All right, and just last getting to know you question. Sticking to the theme of the show, which is Let Freedom Ring. What does it mean to you to be an American?
It means that I am free to do the things that I want to go do. The people that came before me made that possible. So part of my being, loving my country is I chose to serve. And I chose to serve for 20 years. And I would go back and do it again tomorrow. And I'm of the belief that if you can serve your country, then you should. Because you get a whole different perspective of what it's like to be an American. Because, we went overseas and we went to countries, and you go to these countries and you realize what we have over here.
Mm-hmm.
Never get over there and you never see that. You don't ever know. You take what we have for granted. So when you go to these countries, and yeah, they're industrial nations, but you get out into the countryside where, people don't have cell phones. They don't even know what a cell phone is. They don't know what an ATM is. They don't know, they have to walk, 20 miles to a doctor. It just makes you realize what we really have and how lucky we truly are.
No, that's a good answer. Good answer. I always like to see because everybody has a different perspective on it. And I think that's one thing that's good about being an American is we're all entitled to have that different perspective.
Exactly. Yep.
Bringing us to current events. The one thing dominating all of our lives. We're not in a studio right now. We're doing this through Skype. How has your life changed during the COVID-19 outbreak?
I tell you, it has. So I was on submarines and we'd go underwater, and the longest I was under was 64 days, and you wouldn't even think about it. But now I'm sitting at home, I'm working from my kitchen, I look outside, I see the beautiful weather, and I go, I can't go do anything I want to go do. I mean, I could do some things, I can go to the range or I can go do this, but it's that time of year now where I want to start playing softball again, and I want to start seeing all my friends that I, play softball with that I haven't seen since October, maybe some in February. But there's that yearning to go and do those things. And I always told myself, I could stay home for a month and it wouldn't bother me.
Yep.
I didn't leave my house for 2 weeks and I was going crazy. I'm like, I got to go to the store. We must need something. We must need something. I got to go. So it just.
Yeah, it is. It
just takes away it's taken away my ability to just go do what I want to go do.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and I'm with you. I'm ready for softball to start, and should be playing right now, and we're not. So it's kind of it's definitely been a bummer. Also in the news this week, we had Rand Paul, very famous senator. Tennessee? Am I blanking on Rand Paul? Where's Rand Paul out of?
Kentucky, I believe.
Kentucky, you're right. Sorry. Rand Paul questioning Dr. Fauci. Basically, how is he the know-it-all on this? Fauci coming back, which saying, I'm not saying that. I just go with the suggestions given to me based on the evidence. What do you think of politicians now starting? I don't think it was an attack, but the media kind of turned it that way. What did you think of that whole altercation between the two in the news?
Honestly, I think it's uncalled for.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I really think that the state, the state that this pandemic has put our country in is horrible. People, probably 6 months ago, those two kids, or a year ago, they could have sat down and had an intelligent conversation about this and probably seen eye to eye, and nothing would have come of it. But we're in such a state now that, I mean, I find it ridiculous. Let the guy say what he's got to say. If you don't agree with it, then don't agree with it. But you don't have to go, bash him and start doing all that stuff. Just let it go. Yeah,
no, that's how I felt. And I think we play because as you've seen, like, social media is becoming like almost unbearable right now.
Yes.
I've been focused on trying to share fun stuff on there. But people are they're looking for ways. Listen, Fauci's the voice of this, but he's not the only voice. Mm-hmm. And I feel like people are attacking him. And then when politicians start doing it, or it seems like the politicians are doing it, I just think it's unfair to him.
Exactly.
A little bit. So
exactly. He's just a spokesman. There's 15 or 20 people that are feeding him information, and he's just the one guy that's answering the questions. I mean, do you want him to really honestly have 15 people up there that you have to ask questions to?
No, can you imagine? Yeah.
Yeah, you have one guy. And unfortunately, he is taking the brunt of it. And you're right. It's not fair to him. I don't think so whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, we're continuing to see it. I think everybody's entitled to their opinion. Mm-hmm. As Dave Portnoy, he went on a rant the other night from Barstool Sports. A lot of people have, but I don't think Fauci's perfect, but I don't think anybody is in this position. Yeah. No, good answer. That brings us to pop culture. This week, unfortunate news with the passing of Jerry Stiller. Mostly known. He had a career obviously before Seinfeld, before King of Queens. Yep. But yeah, very sad. But he was older. I think his wife had passed many, many years before. Yep. You have a favorite Jerry Stiller moment?
We've been watching a lot of King and Queens lately because we're just getting tired of TV. I don't really have one episode one time that really stands out to me. But I tell you, that guy was hilarious. If you just watched the way the comics today don't deliver like he did. He really put his whole, like when he played the dad on King of Queens, he played that. There's nobody else that could have played that role. Nobody. I was howling the other day because it was the episode where he was addicted to nasal spray. Oh my Lord. I was crying. I was laughing so hard. He was just a genius, I think. And, it's unfortunate that he's not with us anymore because there's not too many of that generation left that could do comedy like that.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's tough. The one I shared on Facebook that's always just stood out for me is the episode of Seinfeld where George Steinbrenner goes to visit them to let them know his son had passed away. And the only thing he cared about was the fact that he had treated Jay Buhner the year before. Yeah, he will be missed. He was definitely a comedy genius.
Yeah.
And it lives on with his son, Ben Stiller, obviously, good comedy genetics there because he's hilarious as well.
And I guess he was, from what a lot of people have said, that he was also genuinely a nice man. Like somebody you could just sit down and have a conversation with. He wasn't all, hey, I'm Ben Stiller and I'm a Jerry, but whatever. I'm rich and wealthy and a great comic and you can't talk to me.
Yeah.
And that's what
he definitely seemed like a guy I'd like to sit down and have a beer with.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Some stories.
Now I know that you're kind of a wrestling fan too. Probably not. I don't. Would you say you're more of a casual fan or diehard kind of fan?
Back in the '80s and early '90s, I was a diehard fan. I'm more of a casual fan now.
Okay.
I'm not really big on the way the storylines are done now.
Yeah.
But I still watch it. I mean, I watch AEW every week. I think that stuff is hilarious. But I stopped watching when, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and Brutus and all those guys left because those guys could deliver like nobody's business. And those guys can't deliver like that. I mean, they can in the ring, but I know you and I talked about this before, but they can't cut the promos like those guys did. Those guys just brought you in, and you were just like, you were just on the edge of your seat, like, wow, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I just don't have the same feeling these days, but I do watch.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with some of that too. I think a lot of social media and the killing of kayfabe has kind of hurt wrestling over the years. But two things in wrestling I just want to touch on. Becky Lynch came out. She's been the Raw Women's Champion now for over a year.
Yep. Probably
one of the hottest things in the company, period. She just dropped the title. She's unexpectedly pregnant.
I watched that the other night, and I thought it was fantastic how she did it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I like that they made it genuine, that Asuka didn't go, cut a heel promo on her or something like that. They just went with the moment.
Yep.
I just can't think of a time, because female wrestling now has gotten so much bigger than it was 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. And for someone to be a top star like Becky Lynch and happen to step down because she's pregnant, it's just never happened. All right. No. They've usually, women wrestlers have usually retired before that. So thought it was interesting. And you're right. I like the way that they did it on Raw.
Yeah, it was really classy.
Yeah, very big time. One other thing I want to touch on, because I hadn't touched on the show yet. Triple H has now been with the WWE for 25 years.
That's amazing.
It's crazy to think, from Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the rich blue blood, to the King of Kings. He's from Nashua, New Hampshire, which is, rarely talked about. Do you have any favorite Triple H moments?
I think probably my favorite Triple H moment is when DX was going to do the takeover on WCW, and they were riding a stupid-ass tank. Yeah. I could watch that over and over and over again. I really liked Triple H. I really became a fan of his when he was in DX, because I thought that was a fantastic. That group of wrestlers had really good chemistry. They were really good together. They fed off each other really well. So I really liked him in that era, that era of Triple H. Not so much the beginning era, the blue blood snooty dude. I didn't really care for that, but when he transitioned into DX, I loved it. I loved all that little group.
And in the first part of DX, when it was him and Shawn Michaels too, you started to see that there's more to Triple H than just this one gimmick that he had. He can actually do a lot more.
Yes.
I think my favorite probably is just because it was his first when he won the title on Raw from Mick Foley. But I mean, there's so many Triple H moments that you really could go on forever. I mean, 25 years. So big ups to Triple H. He's had more impact on the business too than just being in the ring. I mean, NXT, that's his baby.
Yep.
And he's changed the wrestling landscape. So also that brings us to Betty White. She is filming a movie at 98 years old. I think a lot of people are scared to death during the COVID-19 outbreak that we're going to lose Betty White. I keep calling her the life goat, I should say. Is that a fair thing to say about Betty White?
I would say it is a very fair thing to say about Betty White. That woman is phenomenal. I mean, think about it. 98 years old, still making movies, still doing what she wants to do. That's just, to me, is incredible. And it's going to be a very, very sad day when she's gone.
Oh, I agree. It's crazy because the Golden Girls was like late 80s, or very early 90s. And you knew that was the whole premise of the show is these older women living in a house together. They're all gone. And she's still here. It's crazy. Yeah, I stand by it. Betty White is the life goat. Here's a question, too, in pop culture that I've been trying to ask a lot of guests on their first time on the show, just to get people thinking about movies and stuff. Do you have 5 favorite movies?
So my most favorite movie ever is Highlander.
Okay.
The Goonies.
Yes.
Then The Sandlot.
Gotta have that.
And then I would have to say the original Rambo, the very, very first Rambo, and the very, very first Rocky movie.
Good. So a big Stallone fan, safe to say.
I have always liked Sylvester Stallone.
Me too. Yeah, Rocky is one of those, like, if you've never seen Rocky, what are you doing? Because that is just such a wow, what a movie.
It's an iconic movie.
It really is. And the Rockies, I liked Rocky 2, but I liked Rocky 3 better. Then I liked Rocky 4, and then 5 just kind of was like, okay, they're just spinning the wheels here at this point. But
that price is gone.
Yeah. But I did enjoy Rocky 6, The Return, when he fought in his 60s or late 50s or whatever it was. I did enjoy that film. But no, good answer. All right, we have a fan question, a Let Freedom Ring fan question from a buddy of mine, Chris Lind, that I played rugby with at Plymouth State. And he wanted to know, how deep underwater have you gone? And is it weird to know you're there?
So, unfortunately, I can't tell you the exact number. I can tell you that I've been greater than 800 feet deep. You don't really know you're there, except for the fact that the pressure on the hull actually makes the submarine smaller, the diameter. So what we used to do when we were doing those kind of things is we tie a string from one side of the engine room to the other, and it would be taut at 60 feet. And as you went down, the deeper you went, the more sag that it got into it because of the pressure on the hull. And there was one instance in my career that I honestly thought I was going to die on a submarine. Fortunately, that didn't happen, and I'm here. We were definitely greater than 800 feet.
Okay. Is that standard? 800 feet is about the standard to go, or?
That is as deep as they like you to go.
Okay.
Of course, you have to go deeper than that for testing purposes, because you can't say that 800 feet is your ceiling per se. So you do test deeper than that, but most of the time, 800 feet is the deepest you will go. Okay.
Yeah, I've been in a mini submarine for on an excursion on a cruise, and even then, I think I don't know, I felt claustrophobic but I think obviously if you do it every day, there's some getting used to doing that, I assume. Like, how was it when you first started?
So what was interesting is, like I said, I grew up in Montana, so I'm used to wide open spaces. Mm-hmm. And I remember the very first day I was going to San Diego. I just finished all my schooling, headed to San Diego, and I was going to the fleet. And I thought, you're going to walk up to this pier and you're going to see all these ships. There's going to be a big sign, "Welcome to the fleet." Go to San Diego. The sub base is located at the end of a road. You wouldn't even know that it's there unless you follow the road all the way to the end. You get there, there's a couple submarines tied up, there's a McDonald's, there's a bar, there's some barracks, and it was very disappointing because I was so expecting more. But I remember the first time I went down on the submarine, I was like, what did I get myself into? Can I really do this every day, day in and day out? And the very first time I went underway, I was nervous as hell because I'd never experienced anything like that. But once you shut the hull and once you shut the hatch, and you seal the hull, you really don't know. It's like you definitely, you get into a routine. You're on 18-hour days, 6 hours on watch, 12 hours off. Once you get into that routine, you really don't know. You just boom, 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 everything flows, and then you're done. It can wear on you, especially when you're with the same guys day in and day out underwater. But you get fed up with them underway. But when you hit a Liberty port, they're your brother, and you're there for them no matter what. The most hated guy on the boat, if somebody's messing with him, everybody's there. So it was definitely a weird experience from a kid from Montana. All right. But I liked it so much, I did 4 of them. So
yeah, now that was my next question. So you did 20 years. Yep. Was the goal always to get to 20, or was there something that kind of happened when you decided, hey, it's time to retire?
So when I first joined the Navy, I was actually going to be a yeoman because that's what my dad did, which is basically a secretary. And I was only going to do 4 years. And then I was going to get out. I was going to take the GI Bill. I was going to go back to college, start a life, happy ever after, all that crap. I got to my MEP station. They said, hey, you got pretty good grades in high school. Why don't you take this test? You could be a nuke. And if you make it through school, you get $5,000. I'm like, oh, I wasn't getting a bonus the other way, or $6,000. I'm like, sure, I'll take the test. I took the test. I made it. And then he said, yeah. And then every time you re-enlist, you can get up to $30,000. And I'm like, oh, well, I could do 8 years and make 36 grand. Why not? But then I fell in love with it. I really honestly did. I was like, I could never imagine my life without doing that. Okay. And when my time was up at the end, it was very hard for me to leave. I liken it to that guy that's in the bullpen, the old guy. He's the guy that he's dependable. He's always there. You can get an inning out of him, but his time is up and he knows it. And that was me. I walked away the same way I went in. I had lunch with all my fellow brothers that I was on shore duty with, grabbed my shadow box, and never looked back. Didn't have a big party, didn't do the whole retirement ceremony because that wasn't who I was. I just wanted to go out the same way I came in. And I probably stayed in forever.
Well, no, and I thank you for your service, Rich. That is, especially given 20 years of your life, it's appreciated. So, all right. Well, that's going to bring us into sports. Dave Portnoy, we're bringing him up again. He won an auction to watch a game with Roger Goodell in Roger Goodell's man cave. Do you think Goodell will go through with it or find a way to weasel his way out?
I think honestly, I think Roger Goodell will find a way to weasel his way out. I am not a big fan of the commissioner of the NFL. I never have been when they brought him in. I just kind of shook my head and said, why? Why that guy?
Yeah, because now he's been there, what?
It feels like
20? Almost 20 years, maybe? I want to say he took over in 2002. I'm guessing that. Yeah, I'm with you. Not a big fan. I loved when he suspended Brady and he had to hand Brady the Super Bowl trophy in the same year.
I'm sure you loved it.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. Though I have my honest belief with all the NFL owners, even Robert Kraft, I do believe they're all in it with Goodell. Unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, they have to.
Yeah, he protects their money, But
that's big business money.
Yeah,
That's a big money business. I mean, especially when a guy like Jerry, what the hell's his name?
Jones.
Yeah, Jerry Jones. I mean, look at his stadium, $3.2 billion.
Insane.
I mean, that's big money.
Yeah. Well, I hope it goes through because I'd like to see that interaction, and so we'll see if he pulls it off. Do you think we'll see any kind of sports back in 2020? I know there's been a lot of talk with the NBA, MLB, NHL. Do you think they actually get to anything that we can actually watch?
I don't think we're going to see any basketball this year, hockey. And I was hoping when they started talking about baseball, that baseball was coming back.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think the next sport we're going to see is football. And you're going to see it with empty stadiums for a while.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Because, I mean, the owners gave the baseball union, I thought, was a pretty good deal. They didn't want to take it. I understand that there might be some anxiety about this. I know that the big players in the NBA want it bad. I know LeBron wants to play really bad. But you might. More than likely, I think you're right. I know the Florida governor is saying, if you want to come here, come on down. So we'll see how that plays out. While it's kind of been gone, have you had a chance to watch any of the Korean baseball organization on ESPN?
No, I did not. I know you guys have been posting about it and watching it. I love my baseball here.
Yeah.
So I felt like I would be cheating if I watched baseball.
It's tough. It's tough. It's on weird hours, and they do a replay. Like on the weekends, I stayed up for a little bit, but it's hard. I mean, their games are on at like 1 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning. So I'm giving it the best shot I can because it's all we got.
Yeah. It's sport.
Now you are a Mets fan.
Yeah.
86 World Series. I figured this was worth asking because I was only 2 years old at the time. What was it like watching that? What was it like seeing the ball go through? Now, obviously, you probably enjoyed this. Did you feel like the Red Sox had it, that they were going to win that game when that happened?
Yes, I really did. And then when that ball went between Buckner's legs, I went crazy. I was like, no stinking way. Are you kidding me? All you got to do is stop the ball, dude. It's basic baseball 101. Get down, get in front of the ball, at least knock it down and give yourself a chance. And you'll hear me at softball say, you just got Bucknered. I say that to people.
That will be said till the end of time. I'm glad, for selfish reasons, I'm glad that happened because I would never remember that World Series. Yep. So that gave me a chance for 2004 to have the moment that we got to have. And I'm also glad that he got to, once they won the second one, they brought him back to Fenway Park through the first. I'm glad he got to have his moment before he passed of letting that go. But what do you think? Do you think so? That's the last Mets World Series, or is it the only Mets World Series?
That's the only one they've won.
Yeah.
They played the Yankees when Clemens pitched for him, and I honestly I was a huge fan of Roger Clemens until he picked up the broken bat and threw it at Mike Piazza.
That was classless. This is one of the most classless things I've ever seen in baseball. I couldn't believe he did that, honestly.
And he, I like how he wrote it off as, it was just a reaction. No, you pick up a piece of wood, dude. You know what it is. You are a $200 million pitcher, or whatever the hell he was making. You know exactly what you're picking up, and you know exactly what you're doing because that guy right there could destroy you.
Yeah, my money would be on Piazza.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just in hitting. I mean, he was deathly afraid of Piazza. Piazza could hit. I mean, as a catcher, he's the most prolific hitter in baseball as a catcher for his position.
Yeah, he was great. I liked Mike Piazza a lot. I've never like had a hatred for the Mets or anything like that. They've had some good players. They seem to always squeak in there every so often. I mean, they were in the World Series a couple of years back again, but they played the Royals there. But no. I had to ask about the '86 as a Mets fan's perspective on that. Yeah. What are some of your favorite sports moments that you've had in your life?
So I was lucky. I guess you could call this lucky. In April of 2002, right after 9/11, I got to live out one of my ultimate baseball dreams. I re-enlisted at home plate at Shea Stadium with a game before the Mets and the Braves.
Oh, wow.
The night before, we stayed in the hotel across from Shea Stadium, which is where Bobby Valentine's restaurant was. We got to meet Bobby Valentine. He comped all of our food, all the alcohol for everybody. And the next day, he held the Bible for me while I re-enlisted.
Oh, wow.
So he was holding the Bible. We were standing there. And it was amazing because, like I said, it was right after 9/11. And all the fans were chanting USA, USA. Everywhere we went, we didn't have to buy any food in the stadium. They were comping us. They were saying, hey, you guys are our heroes. You know, and even the police officers that were there, I mean, I was in awe. So that was one of my favorite moments.
That's a cool
the other
awesome.
favorite moment is when Piazza hit a home run after 9/11, when the first came back, when he came up to bat and did that. And then Big Papi. I love Big Papi to death. He's hit some pretty big bombs. So lots of Big Papi stuff. And then, of course, the whole Clemens Piazza crap in the World Series. That's kind of a stain, but you remember it. I mean, it was a good series. It just had some unfortunate. It was unfortunate events. I mean, it was really classic. I mean, you had a Subway Series. That's never that doesn't.
That was actually super cool. As someone that hates the Yankees, I wanted the Mets to win so bad. But it was cool for a Subway Series because I don't know if, that had probably not happened in God knows how long or anything close to that. Yeah. Two teams from the same city. If it even has, I'd have to look it up. But no, that's good. That's a really cool story about Bobby Valentine.
It was so cool because we gave him a ship's hat. I even have the tape because it was aired on ESPN that day, and you could see when they'd show him in the dugout, you could see his USS Albany hat sitting in there.
Oh, wow.
It was, and we met Dennis Leary that day. Well, my daughter got to meet Dennis Leary. They were there. He threw out the first pitch. It was for the name of that movie, Ice Age. They just released that movie. And my daughter was like, Daddy, that's the tiger. That's the tiger. So that's my probably my most favorite.
Oh, that's a cool moment. I liked Bobby Valentine until he came. He just wasn't. He was in a bad situation with the Red Sox, I would say. I think he's now the athletic director for Sacred Heart, which that's a pretty good gig.
Boston's not an easy town to coach in. You got to be, Boston, New York, and LA. You got to be tough because those cities demand winners.
And Terry Francona was absolutely loved by this city.
Yep.
They let him go and then trashed him on the way out. Valentine had no chance. No chance that the fans were going to accept him. They were going to be a bad team. We knew that. And he was just kind of in an unfortunate situation, to be honest. All right. So that's going to bring us into politics. This first question I'm going to start asking regularly on the show because I want to hear everybody's different opinions. Because obviously we all know that everybody has an opinion on the president, what good, bad, indifferent, there's an opinion.
Yep.
But just to discuss, because I think this is something that a lot of people think about, describe what you think it is to be a good leader.
So for me personally, I've always been of the opinion that a leader is not something that you can create. You're either born with it or without it. To me, anybody can be a manager. They can manage anything. But to be a true leader, you have to be born with it. And you have to have compassion. You have to have empathy. You have to be intelligent. You have to be, and you have to know your own limits. And you have to know probably the biggest thing is you have to remember where you came from. I remember that was one of the very first lessons I learned in the Navy. Is my very first chief on a submarine said, never forget where you came from. Because someday you're going to be where I'm at. Never forget what it took to get here. And never forget those that helped you get here. So,
I like that.
Unfortunately, I think in today's society, we think that you can take a person and you can put them in a spot and say, okay, now you're here, you're a leader, go lead.
Yeah.
And they can't because they don't have a clue. So that's what I think. What's wrong?
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I like that. It's definitely something I'm just going to be asking on the show because I want to hear what everybody's opinions are on that. Now, President Trump didn't have the best press conference on Monday. Did you have a chance to see him storm out at all?
Honestly, I've stopped watching him.
Yeah, they're tough to watch.
So at this point in this is how I feel. I'm not going to hide it. I voted for the man.
Yeah.
But I'm also of the opinion that he needs to be quiet. He needs to get out of the limelight, and he needs to run the country. Stop holding press conferences. Stop saying that everything is good and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Take a step. That is a person to me that is scared. That always has to be. I have to have the limelight. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. Take a step back. Take a breath. Take freaking 2 days and sit in the White House and just don't say anything. Don't tweet anything. Don't Snapchat. Don't do anything. Just sit back and see what's going on around you.
Yeah.
He's very, I don't know what the word is, but he's, other than being scared, he always has to be in the forefront of everything. And
yeah.
For me, that's not the right.
And I think that's how he's been his whole life, even before this. I've really thought about it a lot. Now, as someone who didn't vote for the president, I know a lot of things he's doing is what he thinks would help his reelection. But I'm thinking to myself, what would really help you if you really want to get reelected? Just freaking lead. Stop with this and just make us believe in you. Yeah. Make us believe in you. That's really what could lead to you being now. He may end up winning again. I don't know. But if I were him, this is where we want our leaders to lead. We don't want them arguing with the press.
Exactly.
So yeah, I have stopped watching too. Like I don't watch them. I was watching them live when it first happened because I felt like they were useful in the beginning. We were getting information that we needed. And then it started to transform into something else, to the point where, they're asking if he would pardon Joe Exotic. Now I've made some jokes about that, but that's really not appropriate right now. Where we're dealing a pandemic with a pandemic here. So no, that's a good answer. I do agree. He needs to, just show us, stop. We have enough anxiety in our lives right now,
Exactly.
Which brings me to the other candidate, because honestly, we're back in a situation where I do like Joe Biden more than I didn't like Hillary Clinton at all. But now Joe Biden's in a position. He's kind of in a bind if you think about it. Yep. Where now he has allegations of sexual misconduct against him. The Democrats have always believed. Now, I've known people that have been assaulted. I've known people that have been wrongfully accused. So I don't think it's a black and white issue. It's a gray area. Yep. But the Democrats have run or believed you must believe all women no matter what. That's kind of how it's come off for them. Yep. Is Joe Biden in a huge bind here? Because if that's how they look at it, and now he's being accused of something, well, we're supposed to believe all women. How does this end for Joe Biden?
I thought about that, and it is a very, very sticky situation because if the Democrats bend on this, then I honestly think that Trump's going to get reelected because they're going to go, well, look, the Democrats were, they had all the Me Too. They believed all these women, up until the woman said, no, that really didn't happen. But they believed them because you have to, they were preaching, you have to believe, you have to believe. And now their number one candidate, these allegations are there. If they push him, a lot of people are going to leave because they're going to look at it as, well, they don't have the same values as I do anymore. So I'm going to go with the devil I know. And they're going to go that way.
Or they might just not show up,
Yeah, they might not vote, and that could cripple the Democratic Party. But they also can't go into the convention with Joe Biden as their leading candidate and then pick somebody else, because then they're going to be shown as washy as well. I mean, they're honestly right now they're in a no-win situation.
Yeah, and I feel like they constantly do this to themselves.
Yep.
I really do feel that way. They served Al Franken up on a silver platter and ran him out, who was someone I really liked a lot, because they wanted Trump out. So they sacrificed all their others where there should have been some kind of trial or some investigation. But no, he's got to resign.
Yeah.
Well, now guys, you got someone who is the candidate with an accusation. And I'm not saying none of us were there. We don't know. But exactly. I think when it comes to any kind of accusation, especially serious ones like that, you have to look at this. What are the facts? Look at the situation. But you can't just say, well, he's automatically guilty or he's automatically innocent. Yep. And the Democrats have gone with, well, you're automatically guilty. And that's a problem. That's a big problem for them.
I mean, if you look at the 2016 campaign, Hillary really pushed that, saying, hey, look, this is what he said. He was going to grab women here. This is what he did. They had the vagina hat movement. They had all that. They lived on that, feeding off of that to try to win that election. And now you have a candidate who's in the same spot. They are in a really tough spot. A really tough spot.
I agree. So this is going to be an interesting ride yet again. Never a dull moment.
It is.
All right, now my next question. I've kind of just been thinking about this, kind of just been going off social media, and I kind of said something the other day that some people got triggered by, but whatever. Oh, nice. I think I said something along the lines of, I didn't know anybody with a social media account was automatically an expert on pandemics. So do you feel like everyone, and I'm not saying no matter what side you are on this, I think we all need to be on the same side, but for whatever reason we came and do that. But do you think everybody thinks they're like an expert on not every, but it's like a lot of people think they're like the expert on what's going on?
I would have to say that a majority of the people on social media think that they know what they really don't know.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy because even before this pandemic, I mean, there's people that even in my own family, my father was a Republican. His father was a Republican. I've been a Republican my whole entire life. But that doesn't make me an expert. That just makes me a guy who, these are the people that I identify with, and that's the way I'm going to vote. I'll tell you this. I voted for Bill Clinton both times because I thought he was the guy that could do the job. But that doesn't make me an expert. And I think that's what we see a lot of is, I have an opinion, I'm an expert.
Yeah. Yep.
and I swear to gosh, Dan, people will burn on a stake and they will not back off of their, nope, I'm an expert. You can burn me. It ain't going to change. I'll be like, you ain't burning me. I'm no expert on nothing.
Yeah. No, I agree. Even when I share an opinion, I like to say, this is my opinion.
Yes.
I'm not saying this is what is, because honestly, through this whole pandemic, I can say straight up, I have no freaking clue what's right, what's wrong. Exactly. We're to the point where it's like, well, they suggest you wear a mask in public, and people are like, how can you infringe on my rights like that? It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Geez, wearing a mask, like it's just a face covering. They're not even saying it's going to stop it, but they said it could help, and people are pissy about that.
Yeah, and tell me I got to be 6 feet away from people, and I can't see my parents, and then you have the other side that's like, well, I'm going to wear gloves in the grocery store. I got to tell you, I've never been so freaked out in my life. Is one day I was in the grocery store and I was watching this lady and she had a mask on and she had gloves on and her hand went in her purse. She was touching vegetables. She touched her face.
Yes. What is it? The gloves are now moved.
I was like, oh my God, I am not buying a vegetable that's not wrapped because everyone was touching everything. I'm like, what are you doing? You don't understand the whole why you're supposed to wear gloves and why you're not. I mean, I'll tell you, when I go to the grocery store, I wear a mask.
Yep.
It's more so for protecting the other people.
Yeah.
I mean, if I go to I've gone to the store and says you have to wear a mask, I put it on. You don't have to wear a mask, I still put it on because that's my choice to.
Yep.
I went to the gun range today. You got to wear a face covering. You know how freaking uncomfortable it is to shoot in a building, that's 85 degrees wearing a mask? Yeah. It's not dull, but I still did it. That's the requirement. But yeah. We have so many experts on everything. It's not just a pandemic. It's everything.
It is crazy. When you think about even 20 years, 25 years ago, and just like social media is I have a lot of fun with it, but that's what I try to do with it is have fun with it. But so many things have been just ruined over the years. You know what I mean? If people just have to shit on everything, it's just it is what it is. But no, good point.
What amazes me is it destroys friendships.
Yeah.
Because you can have an opinion and I can have an opinion and we'll fight on social media about it and then we'll stop being friends. I'm like,
yeah,
that doesn't make any sense. Because before, if we had differences of opinion, we would go sit at a bar, have a beer, talk, and we'd still be friends when it was over. But now other people can weigh in.
Yeah, that makes it worse.
Each other, and you get that pack mentality, and you're pretty soon you're like, well, we're done. I'm never. That guy, if he comes in my yard, I'm going to call the police. I don't want nothing to do with you. I don't care if you're best friends, your wife's best friends with my wife. We're done. It's over. It's insane. Social media is the destruction of the world.
It does get insane. I think there's only been a handful of times where I've been legitimately like pissed off by it. When this first broke out, I shared what you should do if you think that you might have contracted COVID-19. I shared what you're supposed to do in the state of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
No big deal, right? Just sharing that. And I had someone coming at me like, you're taking this way too serious. They started like attacking me. And I'm like saying, well, this is why or whatever. But then other people are chiming in. And then it turned into the people that thought this was all a hoax. And the people are like, you guys are freaking assholes. Stop. And, I'm just kind of watching this go through. But I'm like, but at the same time, I shared something on my personal page and you came at me. Yeah. So, and then don't make me the bad guy because you could have kept scrolling. Now, if you want to come here and attack me, if I saw this guy out, I wouldn't be like, I'd just be like, hey, what's up? But at the same time, it's like, don't go on you want to go on someone else's page. They've already told you what their opinion is.
Yeah.
And the fact was that day I wasn't sharing an opinion. I was sharing facts. Hey, here's what you do.
Yeah. I got to tell you, you're a bigger man than I, because if somebody attacked me and then I would see them out in public, I'd say something. I'd be like, hey, you asshole. Yeah. I'm here. Say it to my face now.
This kid's a buck like 20 soaking wet, so I'm not too worried about it. But at the same time, it's just like, it was just nonsense. And I was like, all right, whatever. But all right, that brings us. Yeah.
One more thing on that. But what gets me though is when someone bashes you on Facebook and then you go to say you play softball with them or them through sports and you go see him and then they act like there's nothing wrong.
Oh yeah. Look at
are you kidding me?
Look at Aaron who runs After Work League.
Yeah.
People have blown him up on social. I'm like, this guy's running the league. He told you the information. Just let him. He's running the league, and they put him on blast. Oh, and then when he shut down the league, he shuts it down. Now it's like, oh crap, maybe we pushed it too far.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I know you and Steve have had similar issues with tournaments you've run and things like that, where it's like,
it's got ugly quick.
Yeah. Because I used to troll stuff with softball. I don't even do that now because I've realized people will think that you're serious when you're just trying to, kid around a little bit.
Yeah, when you're just trying to have a good time.
Yeah.
People have lost all sense of humanity.
It's true. But all right, that's gonna bring us into my favorite segment of the show, blank versus blank. I'll give you two people, two things. You have to choose which one and tell why. First, I know you're a Lakers fan. The Lakers had a dynasty in the early 2000s. Who are you going with, Kobe or Shaq? Who's more important to that team?
You'd have to bring this up after Kobe passed. But I honestly believe that it was Shaq.
Yeah.
That Shaq was the one that he was the yin to Kobe's yang, kind of like Jordan and Pippen. Without Shaq there, they weren't going anywhere. He brought a certain mentality and a kind of a playfulness to the game, where Kobe was always serious. Shaq was more of this. I mean, come on, the guy's 7'4", 300 pounds. He's a freaking giant.
Yeah,
but he's also
really
he's like a little kid. I think if you just said, "Hey, Shaq, we're going to pay you $20 to give you a bucket of Popeye's chicken," he'd be like, "All right, I'll play."
Yeah.
I've always felt it was Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, I don't think I know Kobe won without him later, but in those early teams, I think you're right. Shaq was that. He was a veteran in the league at that point too. Kobe was still a very young player. Yeah, and then Shaq took Shaq took D Wade to a championship, who was a young player.
Exactly.
So here's an interesting one. Jay Cutler or Rex Grossman as a Bears fan.
I would have to say Jay Cutler just because of his arm strength.
Yeah.
Both of them I felt should have never been in the NFL.
Yeah.
Ever, never. I don't know why they were. I don't know why the Bears hung on to him as long as they did. Yeah, I just have to say Cutler because of his arm strength and nothing else. I mean, when he walked out of that game against Green Bay, the NFC Championship game, oh my leg hurt, all I could think of was like, are you kidding me, dude? There's people that would they'd play with broken legs to be in your situation. You had that game, you could have won that game, went to the Super Bowl, and you waffled out and then came up with some lame excuse. I mean, no.
Yeah, and Grossman didn't get to the Super Bowl because of him, either. But yeah, Jay Cutler, maybe one of the softest players I've seen in sports.
Yeah.
Overall team, who's better, 1986 Mets or 2000 Mets?
I'd have to say the 86 Mets. Better pitching.
Okay. Yeah, and I also had a player that I really liked. He played for Montreal as well, Gary Carter. I've read read his book a few years back. I was at his Hall of Fame induction too. So.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, he was a great player. George W. Bush or Donald Trump?
George W.
Yeah, I don't think I've had anybody no one's taken Trump on this yet. People have said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I always liked him. I know a lot of people didn't, but I did. I liked when he was done. He was done. I don't think Trump's ever going to go away. I think when he's if he loses this election, he's going to cry, and if he wins, then we're going to have to put up with him for 4 more years, and then we're going to have to hear about it. I was the greatest president ever. I like Bush. He was in, he was out, he was done. He leads a quiet life. He does a lot for charity. He does a lot for veterans. Doesn't seek the limelight. George W.
And one quality that he had. That what?
Strategy. He came up with some great words. Strategery and all these other things.
And one other thing that people don't talk about as much is he was able to bring the country together after 9/11. He really brought the country together. And again, Trump could have had his moment.
Yep.
And he just chose not to do that. So yeah, no, I agree with that answer.
I still remember W at Ground Zero showing up at Ground Zero with all those people.
Yeah, and he was not he wasn't afraid to do that. He just went and did. Now, he did some things that I think, like, if George W. Bush's presidency ended right there, he'd be remembered very differently. Obviously, he was very young to that presidency, but a lot of people forget that he was a uniter at that time because of things they've disagreed with later on in his presidency. Yep. But in that time, I was a junior in high school, and I was damn proud that was my president, and that's the way he was acting when our country faced tragedy.
Exactly.
So, 2 shows now. I should have I'm not sure if you've seen either one of these shows. So I kind of wrote down because I wanted to ask somebody this. Have you seen The Sopranos or Breaking Bad?
I loved The Sopranos. I could not get into Breaking Bad. Tony Soprano was like, he was just, James Gandolfini was so awesome in that role. Like, if I were to walk down the street and see James Gandolfini, I'd have been like, holy shit, there's Tony Soprano. I better mind my P's and Q's.
Yep.
I really loved that show and what it brought to television.
Yeah, I agree. I still watch it almost every night. Yeah. I'm like diehard obsessed to the point where Michael Imperioli started a podcast with the guy who played Bobby. I always forget Bobby's, and I've been listening to that during. They've got some good episodes on there talking about each episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. All time. That's my all-time favorite show. I will say one of the worst news days ever was all in one newscast. Doc Rivers was leaving the Celtics. Aaron Hernandez is likely a murderer. And then they went to entertainment. They said James Gandolfini died. I went, geez, what? I was like, this is the worst news day I've ever heard.
That was a threesome right there. You're like, oh no.
Oh my. I was like, oh my God, Aaron. Oh my. I'll tell you, when the Aaron Hernandez thing broke, I went, oh, he's guilty. Look, he's guilty. Like, they found this, Yeah. That was all in the same newscast. So, oh, he was an idiot. Absolute idiot. Baseball or football? If you could only have one for the rest of your life.
Baseball.
Yeah, me too.
I have always, since I was a little kid, I've always loved baseball. And it goes back to, I can remember going to Oakland with my grandpa and going to an Oakland Athletics game and seeing Reggie Jackson strike out 4 times in a game.
That doesn't happen often with him.
No. But he brought that love of baseball to me, and I have loved it ever since. And it's more, I think it's more, to me, it's more of a strategic game than football. Football is up and down the field. Baseball, there's all kinds of other elements going on with baseball. So I'll forever love baseball. If baseball were to go away tomorrow, that'd be it for me. I would never watch sports again.
Yeah, I'm with you. Baseball is my first love, so it's always going to be, my favorite thing to watch. And getting to see Reggie Jackson, that's awesome because I would have loved to. He was already retired by the time he won the Hall in '93.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was already before I really got to start watching the game. All right, here's one I like to ask a lot of guests. It's a little controversial question. Gets a lot of people riled up. Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
MJ, all day, every day. And I'll tell you why. When Michael Jackson first came into the NBA, he was very quiet, very unassuming. Michael Jordan, pardon me.
So I was like,
just went out and played basketball. Yeah. I loved him when he was at UNC. I loved him when he came out to play in the beginning. When LeBron came out, there was so much more attention paid to him because he's a kid coming out of high school, never played college ball, and and then I remember watching a game, I don't know if it was in Miami or Cleveland, where he had King on the back of his jersey. And I was just, to me, that's totally classless, dude. I like Michael Jordan in the Bulls because he was a classy basketball guy. He just went out and played the game, did what he could do, and it was magical to watch. I mean, come on. He played sick. He plays with the flu and hits the winning shot against the Utah Jazz. I mean, it's games, it's memories like that where they're just phenomenal. Yeah, LeBron can go out and score 75 points, and they still lose.
Yeah. Have you watched the documentary, The Last Dance?
I have not watched it because I've been afraid to.
It's so good, but it does start to break down a lot of things that I even forgot that were happening back then, as far as like Jordan refusing to talk to the press at one time because his gambling became such a big deal.
Yeah.
I love those Bulls teams. I like to mess with people on Facebook. Obviously, I think Jordan is the better player. LeBron is probably a better athlete overall, but that didn't get LeBron what Jordan's done in his career. And I love Scottie Pippen. All right, last question. Since you are affiliated with this, which name do you like better that they've used? The New Hampshire Social Sports Club or My Social Sports?
I can't stand either one, but I would have to say my social sports. It's more it's more encompassing because it's not just New Hampshire. They do Massachusetts and Connecticut, and they're in Vermont, and they're trying to grow. I like My Social Sports. It's got a more of a friendly ring to it.
All right. Yeah, I've had a hard time. I know it's been the name for a long time now, but I still, when people ask, no, it's the NHSSC. They're like, what are you talking about? My Social Sports, you know.
Oh,
but,
yeah, those guys, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know what that is. But anyways, Rich, it was a pleasure having you on the show. This was great. I'd like to have you come back when I get into the studio, if you can do that. Trying to figure out when that will be. I'm hoping next month I'll be able to start getting back in there because we're starting to loosen up on restrictions.
Yep.
But yeah, I appreciate it. But until then, everybody, keep your heads up. We're gonna get through all this and continue to let freedom ring.